Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Planning Michigan 2021 conference. My name is Ian Thompson. I'm a graduate student at Michigan State University, and I have the pleasure of introducing today's session. The session title is It's All About the Process, the Tricks of Becoming a More Effective Project Manager, hosted by MAP's Emerging Professional Planner section. This session has been recorded, so if you have any questions about the content, please feel free to reach out to MAP or the presenter using the email addresses in the conference platform. Our presenter today is Thomas Covert, AICP. He has over 31 years of experience as a consulting land planner, project manager, project design team lead, and is now a principal with Midwestern Consulting, a civil engineering firm. Tom consults with the firm's clients and leads an integrated design team for their land development market sector. His extensive knowledge in land planning, land use policy, and innovative approaches to project management and entitlement strategy have proven to be valuable assets to his project stakeholders. Thank you, Tom, for providing an overview of this important process, and please take it away.
Ian, thank you for the introduction. And thank you, Michigan Association of Planning and the Emerging Planning Professionals, for this opportunity to share with you some ideas about project management. For me and my journey as a land planner, I've always been interested in the mix of disciplines that have an influence on the built environment. I wanted to be hands-on in the process of the design and achievement and construction of projects. So with this, I've worked on the development side of the equation, consulting to developers as well as municipalities on a multidisciplinary team that usually includes land planners, civil engineers, land surveyors, landscape architects, and traffic engineers. My desire was to engage the industry as a land planner and build a career. Once I had gained the experience as a land planner, supporting a project team, I had desire to become a project manager. What I can tell you that they don't tell you in planning school is just by the pure matter of your interest in planning, you too can make a great project manager. Your communication skills, your interest in planning, your adaptive style, all of this could allow you to become one of the best project managers in your sphere of influence. Let's get into some ideas and thoughts about project management. With project management, even if you've done everything right, you're on the right track. If you don't manage and engage the project regularly, you'll get run over or have project issues. Don't worry though. You can usually get the project back on track by engaging in the project, working your work plan, and focusing on the project and the communication with the various stakeholders for that project. That being said, one of the firms I worked with had a saying, and that was that you didn't want to be the project observer. You wanted to be the project manager. We've adapted that as a team over the years a bit to include the notion that we want to be creating and not reacting to project influences. So we want to make sure we're engaging our projects and making sure that we're steering the bus, as they say. As a project manager, you may be responsible for not only just the implementation of your project work plan, but many aspects of that project. In our firm, our project managers are responsible for finding the project opportunity, proposing on the project, then winning that project, implementing the project plan and proposal. Then we're also responsible for financial performance of the project and client satisfaction during and at the end of the project. This requires the big R. That's what we call it on our team, responsibility. You need to be responsible for the project. That can be many things. If you've missed deadlines, if you've not gotten information to stakeholders appropriately, you need to be responsible. That means you need to identify the issue that created that issue in your project, and then you need to be responsible for resolving that issue. If we missed a deadline on Friday, we need to be advising our clients that we can get it to them maybe the first thing on Monday. or we need to communicate sooner that we're going to miss a deadline for whatever reason that may be. We may have to hand deliver plans or reports to stakeholders that maybe we missed getting mails out, regular mail out or emails to. There's some poignant YouTube TED Talks on this matter of responsibility. One that I've listened to over the years is by a retired Navy SEAL, Jocko Willink. He talks a lot about the extreme ownership and responsibility, along with some ideas about leadership. I can't imagine any of our project management issues elevating to that of a level of a commanding Navy SEAL officer, but there are some really good ideas that he talks about leadership and responsibility. I was also interested to learn when we were talking as a team that many of those that I work with had also seen his TED Talks and had good feelings about that and what they had learned from watching those videos. So if you have a favorite planning podcast or leadership podcast or project management podcast, why don't you use the chat feature here and share that with the group, and maybe we can build a little resource of information to help us all become better leaders and better project managers. As a project manager, we should always be advocating for our clients. This can pay priceless dividends throughout your project. This will help build a good working relationship with your client and will likely lead to repeat business. It can also be very important to advocate for your clients in that it helps with your organization's reputation and success. Nothing speaks louder than a happy client. People talk about the art and science of project management. I think it is a little science, but I think it's mostly style and personality. Every project manager has their own style. If you're starting out as a project manager, you may mimic the styles of your colleagues or past project managers you've worked with, but in the end, you're going to want to develop and create your own style. Don't think that how your peers manage projects is how you have to manage your projects. The other thing is, how you handle or manage one project for one client isn't necessarily how you're going to manage another project for another client. You need to have style, your own style, with each of your clients, and recognize if your style doesn't match with what your client's style or goals are, that you can also, sometimes you have to switch project managers on a project, and that's okay too. Sometimes styles don't work well together, but if you can identify that and get them to a different project manager on your team, that's okay as well. One of the resources that I've looked at over the years is a book called Primal Management, and there's they break it down in 6 basic management styles, and we're going to talk about those real briefly. They talk about the commanding management style. This is the type of leader that says it's my way or the highway. This might not be the most effective type of management style, at least not all of the time. This commanding style is a common method to influence team behavior. One of the advantages of this style, this commanding management style, is that it creates a great deal of control for the project manager. But however, with long-term use of this project style, it really fosters a lack of autonomy and creativity through project teams. It also can create a negative impact on your team culture. The commanding management style is most effective during an organizational crisis or in situations where you've deviated from a plan or a plan becomes risky. Visionary management. The hallmark of a visionary PM is the ability to mobilize people towards a common goal. PMs who practice this management style can articulate a vision for the future and that path to reach that vision. For this reason, visionary leadership has a positive impact on team culture. This often surpasses all other styles of management. The visionary approach is most effective when the leader is an expert in their craft, whether it be land planning, civil engineering, land surveying, and so on. What they do is they leverage their expertise to gain credibility to rally the team towards a common goal. Visionary PMs are, however, less effective when your employees or your team are undeveloped or require more guidance and mentoring. Affiliative management. This is a people first, task second mentality. The primary objective of an affiliate management project manager is to build relationships and create harmony within the team. This style can have the most positive impact on project team culture, but it does have its limits. The affiliative leader is quick to recognize efforts and reward a job well done, but they often shy away from dealing with deficiencies, and left unchecked, this can give the impression that mediocre work or performance on a project is acceptable. And this type of management style, project management style, can be ineffective during times of crisis. Remember, we just talked about the other management styles, the commanding management style being a style that is most effective in time of crisis. Democratic management. The democratic imperative is not just unique to politics. In a project team situation, the democratic management style is a marginal style, they'll say, and it allows everyone to have a say in consensus building with the direction of a project. This is mostly characterized as collaborative problem solving. This can have a drawback, however, and take a fair amount of experience to make good decisions. So if you have a highly experienced team, you can democratically come to a good decision. However, if you have an inexperienced team, sometimes the time to get to an answer can be too much for a project. Pace setting project management style. The pace setter is typically somebody that has a DIY attitude and prefers to accomplish tasks themselves, creating a really high standard or a high bar to achieve. And this can be really effective for projects where people are very competent and understand what they're trying to do and what goal they're trying to achieve. And it takes really highly motivated team members to achieve this. They typically require little direction or guidance. The downside to pace setting is that it can be detrimental if the project needs additional inputs to accomplish your tasks. So if the project starts to deviate from the work plan or go in a different direction because of inputs that you've received from maybe different agencies and so on, this process or the pace setting management style might not work too well. Coaching management style. This is the sixth style of project management. The primary objective of a coaching style is the long-term professional development of a talented team. Project managers who practice this type of coaching style have a genuine interest in helping others succeed, helping others on your team succeed and achieve what they need to, whether it be budget, timeline, and so on. Unfortunately, this style, this coaching management style, is one of the least deployed leadership styles because many managers don't believe they have time to invest in others. In my career here recently, this has become very important with COVID and people working from home, that we have to make a conscious effort to be investing in our team members to make sure that we're mentoring them properly and they're allowed to grow in their careers as well. And in general, I would argue that all these management styles are good, but you're going to need to be a project manager that utilizes a combination of these styles depending on what the project demands at what time of the project and so on. Or it could be a project team, what the team needs. You may have to adapt your styles and use different styles for different team members. Knowing these styles will help you refine your project management style. As you develop your style and evolve your style through these understandings, you'll find what works best for you, what works best for your clients, and what works best for your teams. So what I'd like you to do is, of these management styles, why don't you in the chat box write down a couple of different styles that you identify most with, either because you've used them in working in teams, or you've worked with a project manager that maybe used these styles to get the best out of the project team and so on. So why don't you make that comment in the chat box here, and we'll see what what's been resonating with people. Another thing to consider with regard to project management is to remember that you're not the industry's first project manager. It's likely that the project you're working on isn't necessarily a project first in that regard. So make sure you review with your peers your project proposals, your project work plans, get buy-in from your team with reviewing those things with them. And, you know, just the other day we had an interesting project opportunity, and we took the time to poll and review with our various project managers what they thought the tasks would be and the cost associated with that. We also included our 2 fresh out of school engineers and had them sit in on the discussion. And it was interesting to find out that we were all within 20% of each other as far as cost for the project. We all had most of the same tasks to get through that project. But what it did is it built some camaraderie and also informed our proposal by bouncing those ideas off of each other, and it made for a much better proposal. And it also allowed us to mentor our fresh out of school civil engineers on the efforts that it takes to get a project done. It's not only just this one aspect, this one design, this one report, this one review. It's the holistic project that's very important to understand as a project manager. And just understand you're not the first one, and there's always a resource to bounce ideas off from. So if you're a project manager, you've likely going to have to do some business development. You're going to have to make some rain, call a friend, and build your network. You have to find the work. In some organizations, you may have a situation where you have a colleague that focuses on finding the work. So you want to make sure that you are a great resource to them and that you're available to help them get going and find any new business opportunities and so on. A lot of times we will focus on a day a week, sometimes on a Friday. It seems on Fridays, a lot of people pick up their phones, they're getting ready for the weekend and so on. So we'll call our friends in the industry, people we've gone to school with, people that we normally deal with. They may be municipal, on the municipal side of things in our industry. We might call some planners and engineers and see what they're working on, what new projects are coming around and so on. So you need to continually be building that network to become your pipeline to your next project to manage. Now you've gone out and found the work. Let's talk about understanding the project. Once you get the RFP or request for proposal, you'll need to understand the project so you can provide a proper proposal. Understanding what your client might be looking for and understanding what they're needing is important to do. A lot of times I like to imagine myself in my client's shoes and looking at what they're trying to achieve and what their goals are. Many times through the RFP process, we found that an RFP may be stating one thing, but a client may be asking for another thing. And if you fill out the RFP talking about that one thing, you may miss the project entirely because you didn't respond to what wasn't in the RFP and what they were discussing. This also means that you need to make sure that your vernacular matches with what your client's vernacular is. In my world, a lot of times we see when we have to submit site plans and so on, that part of the requirements include a survey, a property survey. In my world, a property survey can be different than a boundary survey, can be different from a mortgage survey, can be different from a site survey sketch, and so on. And also throw in the mix an ALTA boundary survey, and then the topo requirements of a site plan. All those things mean survey, but they may not meet what your client's goals are for understanding the project and their needs. We always suggest an ALTA survey because it's the most defensible land survey you can have done. And then typically we also say that we're going to do an ALTA boundary survey and also provide a topographic survey to meet the requirements of the community to make sure we have the proper base mapping. Another area we see this a lot is in the term site plan. I'm sure many of the planners here, if not all of them, have heard the term site plan. Have you also heard the term plot plan? In our world, a site plan can mean a set of documents. It can mean a dimensional layout plan, and a plot plan can either mean a dimensional layout plan or a plan for a house building. I can't tell you how many times I've seen through the course of RFPs terms like that being used interchangeably, and we always want to make sure we're asking the question, understanding what the project is through that RFP process. Once you understand the RFP and what your client's looking for, our group looks to provide and create a work plan. I know we only have an hour here today, but as you can imagine, working with a number of civil engineers, our work plans can get quite eloquently complex. This is just a quick image clip of one of them. If we were putting together a project work plan for, let's say, a site plan in the city of Ann Arbor, it would be multiple pages with multiple tasks lines. So what we have in our project work plan is a summary of the project, a summary of the assumptions, a summary of each of the tasks that it'll take to realize that project with their assumptions, and then the efforts it's going to take by our project team estimated in hours and then computed through their rate schedule. So we think that this is fundamental in making sure we have a successful project, that we've considered all things that we know of that could have input and impact on the project, cost, budget, and work and schedule. The work plan will get you on the right path, and we typically create them at the proposal time. It can be a lot of effort up front, but we really think that with this getting done at proposal time, you've completed a proper work plan and created good understandings for your team. And we share the work plan across our team to make sure that everybody understands what we're looking at and to make sure that we haven't missed anything. One other thing that we found to get the work plan correct and understand our clients' needs for the project is we will prepare our work plan or our scope for our project. And what we'll do is we'll share that with our client ahead of time. You got to do this in advance of your submittal deadline and so on. But if you share this with your client without any pricing for their cursory review, gaining their input, it really creates a lot of opportunity to get input and buy into the fact that what you're proposing on is going to meet their needs. Many times when we share this project work plan and the scope for our proposals, what we find is there are things that we've included that our client hasn't considered, and that just makes us look smarter and allows us to differentiate ourselves from other bidders, that we've got an all-inclusive scope that will work for their success. So one of the things we've talked about work plan, we've talked about scope. One of the other things is when we propose on the project, we have a number of different resources at our firm that we use when we're looking to propose on a project. We could write a written proposal, we could write a project authorization form, we could send a work order, we could do a memo style proposal. All those things have many different implications on effort, timing, and so on. So when we do that, we always look for what style is going to best suit our project. We wouldn't necessarily want to write a 5-page proposal for maybe a simple boundary survey where we're setting irons in the ground, marking the property corners. So you really need to focus on what's going to best suit your client. I have a client that I've worked with for over 12 years now, and I literally share with them my work plan because they don't necessarily expect me to share with them the flowery marketing materials that we have together. They want to get to the nuts and bolts of it and make sure our scope and our fees are appropriate for the work that they need done. An example of this would be when I was sitting on the DDA for the city of Dexter. We had gone out for bid on a project and we got 3 or 4 bids back. This was a number of years ago. The bids ranged anywhere from a simple outline to a highly refined project-specific brochure describing our project with their fees and their work plan and so on. Each of these came with a different price tag and each of them resonated differently with the 7 or 9, I can't remember how many DDA members there were, but each of those resonated differently with each of the different DDA members. So it's important to understand how you deliver your scope of work, your proposal, your authorization, your price summary memo, your price summary email. I've even done that in the past too, is send an email along with what our pricing looks like. You need to figure out what's going to work best for your client and what's going to work best for them in the long run. If they're going to a board, if they have a board, a council that they need to share the information with, you may look to do something a little different than if you were doing something under a kind of fixed fee contract where you are already pre-approved for the project. So now you've found the work, you've won the job. You're going to imagine that most of your time now is going to be spent on efforts of scheduling and getting tasks completed. You need to make sure you're planning ahead. You want to make sure your work plan items and the efforts associated with them, that you're scheduling those appropriately with proper lead times. You're going to want to make sure that any outside team members that you need, maybe sub-consultants. A lot of times, let's see, the most recent one I bid on, we needed to have a drone flight of a roundabout so that they could count traffic moving through the roundabout. So one of the things we had to do was work with our technology team to make sure they could get the proper clearances to fly the drone, because we're kind of near, this project's kind of near an airport. So we need to be able to fly the drone, not conflict with the airport, and get the video data that they need to count cars at the roundabout. So as you can imagine, there could be some lead time with that. We want to make sure that we're accounting for that as we get our teams focused on getting the project done, scheduling tasks, and so on. Our team, we meet as a group of project managers to talk about what resources we are going to need for that week. That could be anywhere from making sure that, you know, our landscape architects have the time and the opportunity necessary to get a landscape plan done for a site plan submittal. We may need to involve the traffic engineer, and we're all using those resources. So we need to make sure that we're meeting and scheduling appropriately and communicating these needs amongst the project management group. The other thing that we find that's very helpful in scheduling is what we call the project huddle. And that would be in the morning or the afternoon or both, getting together with the project teams to talk about what we have, what we've accomplished, what we need to do, and so on. And that could be daily or weekly, depending on your project. You really need to create your style, develop your style, and implement your work plan as specific to the clients you might be working for. Now you've completed some tasks and you'd like to get paid for your work. So let's talk about invoicing. Most of us work for organizations that require compensation for services provided. So with this, you want to make sure that you're providing pertinent information to the right people to get your invoices paid on time, as they say. So with that, I would say that you want to make sure with your invoicing that you're including the proper client representative on the invoice, along with the proper address, you know, email, and so on, phone numbers and whatnot. A lot of times in our industry, you'll find that you might get a purchase order from a community or from a client that you're going to bill against. So it's important that we, on our invoicing, we not only let them know how much the project costs, but what purchase order that's going to be applied to. The other thing that we don't always see in the industry, and I've seen this on both sides of the table as a development consultant working for private developers and municipal entities, is sometimes you can neglect giving descriptors for what the work that's being invoiced for. Missing those descriptors really misses an opportunity to get that invoice paid a little quicker. One thing that has helped speed up the time to payment on invoices for our firm is including a short invoicing summary with our invoices, just a quick comparison of budget, what's been billed compared to what the current billing is, and what the remaining budget is. This also creates an opportunity for a project manager to have another conversation with a client and again, build that relationship. So with that, over the years, there's been a few things that I've learned and I've tried to stay true to that have led to some successes that you might consider while you're managing projects. And this lesson number one, if you will, is kind of a little joke amongst our team. We hear a lot working on the development side that, no, just give me a proposal. It's not about the cost or the money. Usually when we hear this is the joke now. Our group says, when we hear this, we know it's absolutely about the cost or the money. So with that, you want to make sure that you have a tight work plan, that you have, you're adding good value to the project and so on. So we also like to make sure that we're asking our clients what their budget is. That's not a taboo thing to do. Your client has a project they want to get done for a certain budget. So ask them, go ahead. How much is that? How much do you have budgeted for the project? You can evaluate right then if it's a legitimate project and they understand the effort and so on. And then the other thing is we like to find out, who are we bidding against, and so on, and how we're going to be compared and evaluated, right, when we submit on an RFP. Another lesson learned is that we need to make sure that we're treating others as we would like to be treated in all aspects of the project. This goes for your team, this goes for your sub-consultants, this goes for those that are reviewing your plans, are permitting your plans, your client, and so on. Which leads me to the next comment, that it's a small world and we're not recreating the wheel, and our paths are all going to cross at some point, many of us. And how we manage projects is going to be ours to own, meaning that you might find yourself as a consultant on a job, a sub-consultant on another job, an advisor to, maybe in my case specifically, I may be a consultant and a sub-consultant. I've been advisor to planning commissions. I've been an advisor to DDAs. I've sat on those boards. I've worked with many different folks in the industry. And you just want to make sure that you're not burning bridges. We're all going to cross paths or have the opportunity to cross paths. So make sure we're not burning bridges, and it's a small world. One of the things that we try to stress with all our project managers and even our team members as well is that you will have success and you will have failure. No matter what, it'll be different things on different projects, even similar projects, it'll be different things. So embrace both of those things, the success and the failures. I've been doing this many years, and one of the things I find in the industry is that a lot of times, the success is fleeting, but the failures live on. So we try to promote success within our team and within our stakeholders. And then when we learn from the failures, what we like to do is quarterly have a conversation about just this, success and failures. What did we do well? What did we do poorly? And what can we improve, and how can we improve that? Which really makes for some great discussion and some opportunities to mentor staff through the project. One of the other things I've learned is that no matter how you shake it, bad news gets worse with time. You can't wait to tell your client and the stakeholders the bad news. but you need to be responsible when you share the information with your client or your stakeholders, and have a plan. So you're gonna tell them the bad news, you're gonna accept responsibility potentially, if that's the case, and then have a plan of how you're gonna resolve that. A lot of times in my world, this comes down to bad news pertaining to zoning. Hey, the zoning of the site doesn't match the goals you have for your project, or the utilities near the site aren't going to be able to support your project. These are all big things to a development project, and investment in development, because they'll need to have infrastructure improvements or consider rezonings and so on. Another thing, your efforts down a project task could be more exhaustive than you had budgeted for. And you're going to want to make sure, you don't keep going down that path, that you have that conversation with your client, and engage your client as part of the decision-making process of how you're going to resolve that. And in many cases, what you'll find out is that your clients are very fair and understanding, and you can spend a lot of time worrying about that, or start having conversations. And I'll always tell you, have the conversations, because the bad news gets a lot worse with time. Communication is the key. I can't stress this enough. Success, failure, good news, bad news, indifference. It all comes down to communication. This literally could be my only slide today, but I have an hour to talk, so I'm going to take advantage of that. How we communicate is very important. We can use phone, text, emails. Through COVID here, when we've been working remotely, we've adopted Discord and Slack and all these technologies. So we're using them to communicate, and we're using them to share and inform a project. We're using them to manage good teams and have conversations with clients. There's a lot of other things out there too to help you communicate. Some of the folks I know have used Evernote and Microsoft OneNote in a collaborative process to share information. And I got to tell you, as far as communication goes, do ask the questions. There can be some tough questions. There can be some easy questions. You got to ask them both. To be a successful project manager, you have to ask all the tough questions and all the easy questions. A lot of times we'll talk to clients. We hear this from our contractor friends too a lot, is, what do you as a client value the most? Budget, timing, or quality? Sometimes it's tough to get all those in equilibrium, but you got to ask the tough questions of what do you need to understand so that you can communicate with your client, for your client, and so on. So this could be the only slide today, but we'll continue on. Well, let me ask this. One of the things we've debated here as a team is what the best form of communication is. Is it phone? Is it emails? I have a project right now I have over 9,000 emails for, because that is a easy source to communicate and create record for. So in the chat box, if you have a preference of communication or communication tools that you use that really resonate with you and do a good job, let us know. I'm always interested in continuing the conversation, and hope to cross paths with you all that are watching this presentation here. I'd like to thank you for your attention and opportunity to share a few of my thoughts on project management. Like I say, I've been using a number of podcasts, some audio books on the topic. There's also resources available through Michigan Association of Planning and our national organization as well. I also have found that the Professional Services Management Journal, PMSJ, as it might be most commonly referred to, are great resources to build your style, get your knowledge, gain your knowledge, adjust your style, and so on. You're also going to learn a lot from the School of Hard Knocks through your trial and error, your success and failure. So what I would like to do is have you use this as inspiration about how you're going to be the best project manager that you can be, and serve your clients well. This is by no means an all-inclusive presentation on project management. It's just my perspective. And again, I hope it inspires you to develop your management style and create some happy clients and build your career. Thank you.